Anyways, it's just a joking, but yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because I'm sleepy. Speaking is still difficult. Like the winds have not awakened. I almost see how it's more sometimes natural to be more quiet in the very morning just because you have not awakened yet. But luckily, I prepared the materials beforehand, so I feel peaceful. And I'm going to share with you. Adam should be joining in a few more minutes. Oh, Adam is here. Let me make him a co-host. If anybody else needs what recording permissions or anything, I think everybody's set up. Okay, we will start now. All right. So as well, I would like maybe nobody say in the chat that they were gonna introduce themselves, but I still encourage you to consider introducing yourself. One or two people every session could be good. So what I think is like maybe I start unless somebody wants to. Otherwise, I could start sharing materials and then at some point we do a small pause, maybe in 15 more minutes. Let's say at the 30. And I check again if anybody wants to. I think it's very cool. I encourage you. If anybody wants to introduce themselves, then we do that for 10 minutes and then we keep going with the sessions. I need to add one more interpreter. So let me see. Okay, okay, okay. Wow, it's very surprising. So many interpreters. We must really be difficult. And oh, I saw, I don't know, there was a Maria, but maybe not anymore. Uh-huh. Okay, okay, I see. Only a listener. Okay, so no need. I think we're set up. All right. Mm, let's just take 2 minutes really quick. Like, what are we doing here? What are we gonna do? Or what do we want to do with the content we learned? What brought us here? Focusing on the cause of it, and what brought us here focusing on the motivation of it. Like in a way, one thing led to the other and brought us here. And in another way, we have a motivation that for being here will get somewhere. And what are we gonna do with it? Okay, we'll see. All right, let's start. I'm awakening now. Let me share my screen. Mhm. Okay. All right, so you may wonder, what is this thing doing there? Let me see just in the chat there. Everything is good. Okay. So last time we were reviewing Adam's book number 1, Adore Twenties. We have been reviewing some of the first debates, and then we jumped into, even before we actually finished all the debates, we jumped into the run look section. This section is where the heroes of the story, in this case, remember, the heroes for this book, at least in these sections, are school number 2, and they explain and share with us facts and like the winning position of the arguments. They share with us all the information we need in order to understand, follow, and win the debates. That's the run look section. It basically means our own system. And we start reviewing that content, which is very interesting. For those of you who this may be some of your first times, you may need some context to maybe check the debates at some point. We'll keep reviewing them, and you can access them in the chat groups in Telegram and WhatsApp. I've been uploading uh, links and Google Drives with access to the materials. But this is the context. Now we're gonna keep going with the run look section. And for those of you who have seen the debates or remember a little some of them, you'll see how this run look section plays a very helpful role in understanding what's going on in the debates. There you're gonna find as well the topic Mushi Musum that Adam has been sharing with us lately. And today I wanted to show you something real quick. Is this book? Like the other day, I saw my friend Daniel in Phoenix, and he gave me this book. I don't know if you can look at it. This book has been written by one all-time student of Geshe Michael. Maybe some of you hear about it. Oh, wow. Look at that. Mirabel Catherine has it. That's great. It's written by Ningpo, but the name that their parents gave him is Eric Brinkman. And then I start looking at it. It has very cool information. Now the thing is, like, it says that you need permission to use it and blah 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 blah. So I'm trying to contact Eric and see if we can use it. But it's really cool. I'm gonna share with you some things that are there once he agrees. I hope he will, because I think Jigme thinks he will be very happy that we use his book. But anyways, let me show you what's going on in the run look section. Okay, Let's start. You see the run look section is our own position, and the topic we were reviewing mostly in these debates. Remember, these debates start with the topic of red and white, then white and red. Those are the first two debates. And then it keeps going for a few debates, talking mostly about physical form. Little by little, first start talking about visible form, then little by little start exploring other other forms of form, other different categories of form, like smell, taste, sound. But right now, in these first debates, pretty much we could say that physical form is like one of the main topics of it. So let's check it out. You will see how this section, run look section, works slightly different, but still keeps a very logical format, although we are not inside a debate right now. Okay, check it out. And the chat asking to use it for my logic teaching. Oh, that's great. That's great. If you have a way to contact him, because I tried different emails, but none of them works anymore. And Facebook, we are not friends yet. So I don't know. I don't think he can see my messages. But that's great that he said yes. Excellent. It gives me hope. Maybe he said yes to me too. Although that's not a guarantee, but okay. Here is where we present the position of our own school. Very first it says, okay, Suki tsenyi yote. Sukrum de impe echer. Remember we were talking like getting familiar with some keywords. Suk, physical form. Tsen can be definition. In some context, I think it also can be like a characteristic. But okay. The definition of key, in this case, is of physical form. Yote. Yo means like there is or exist in this case. And de, it's there. So, and the syntax in Tibetan is kind of backwards of English in some way, because not completely, but the verb goes at the end. So there exists a definition of form. Cause picture is because Sunruk, Adam was telling me, is like something you can point as to be or establish to be form again, right? So you can point to as being form. Yin, impa. Yin is to be, but you see the difference between yin and ye is that yin is to be. In Spanish, we have these two things. One is ser, and the other one is estar. Maybe in I don't know, your languages, you have that. One is to be in the sense of like more permanent way of existence, be in a more momentary way of existence. Like the difference between there is an apple on the table versus this person is my father. So anyways, in Tibetan, they have that. This gene is like more permanent, and this ye is more like related to existence. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think it's good to try. Okay, now I'm about to start moving faster. I just wanted this little activity because these at the end of the day are tools that I'm sharing with you on how you could approach this text and how much use you can get out of it. You see how we've been talking about one single line for almost 10 minutes? So you can use this text also to learn word by word. Adam was telling us it's an excellent text to start learning words, because the way it works is very precise, it's very concise, like the words are very well structured, the sentences and phrases are very, in this way, short. And then what I realized here that I make my own notes, so that you can do as well. If you want to work with this document, you could make a copy. That's what I did. And then I start writing my own notes. What I realized here is, like, interestingly, this definition of form. Remember, we were talking about this different contexts, how you can use the word form. One of the contexts is the 5 hips. Another context is the 12 ayatanas and the 18 dhatus. And depending on what context you're talking and using the word form, it's gonna mean something different. But then I ask myself, does this definition of form fits the 5 hips context or the 12 and 18 context? And I realized that it fits both of them. And then I realized how convenient this definition is, because it's almost like if this definition is the only thing you have, it's almost like I will argue that you will need more information to be able to use this definition. Because check this out. It says, anything you can point at as to being form. So without other context, I will think that anything that I decide it's gonna be form, it's gonna be form. Because if you don't have more information, then how you could say that pointing the mind as being form is incorrect? It's almost like you need to know what form means in order for it to be able, in order for you to be able to define it. So then I realized it's interesting. You need to know what form is in order to know what kind of things you can point at to be form. It's like almost like you're forcing a definition, like book. I don't know. But then what we're gonna do about it, what I realized is, like, if we keep reading and getting familiar with the topic, what is form, whatever is appropriate to point as to being form is gonna get more clear and more clear. So let's go on it. Okay. Form and matter are synonyms. Oh, okay, right. So now the text is already giving you information to establish what
Hey,
is.
hey, Juan,
Yes.
we're not actually seeing the text, my friend.
No.
No.
What are you seeing?
We've got, it looks like your outline. What do I say, the visual of the
Thanks.
categories.
Oh, yeah, and I'll be playing with the text for a little while. Thank you for telling me. Now, of course, I don't know why it is that, like, every time I share my screen, the first thing it gets shared is my chats. I never understand why. But anyways, now you're looking at it. Sorry, because everything I was telling you, I was doing this. Like, for example, suk is form, and ki is off, is for, in this case. Senyi, definition. Anyways, I was doing all these, but you were not able to see. Okay, so form and matter are synonyms. Form can be divided into two types, outer form and inner form. All right, so now if I'm a new person and I don't know anything, I'm reading this book. Now at least I know that when they say form, they must be also referring to matter. Why? Because they are synonyms. So this will help me because if I happen to understand what matter means, I'm gonna be able to understand what form means. And a lot of it happens in a way by convention. Like we were all very lucky to have some form of education where when we approach these topics, we all already have a kind of understanding of what is form and what is matter. But if we were talking about, I just want to point out, if we were talking about a person who never hear about form, they don't know what form means. They don't know what kind of things include in the category of things being suitable to point as to be form. You see where the problem is? They will just don't know if it's wrong, let's say, to consider mind being form. Because if it says anything, you can point at it. Oh, maybe mind. Why not? I can point at it as to be form. But that's the thing, it's important to know. And this definition, the thing is like, it's almost like you need to know what form is in order to be able to point things at form. Let's keep going. Okay, I'm just gonna keep going and then show you the outline, no, the map, the flow chart that I wanted to show you. Okay. There does exist a definition of outer form because that form which is not, no. I almost feel like I am missing a line. Oh no, here it is. Form and matter are synonyms. Form can be divided into two types, outer form and inner form. Okay, so this, I hope this map helps. Check it out. We have form. We have matter. They are synonyms. Form and matter are synonyms. Form can be divided into two types, outer form and inner form. Outer form is the kind of form that is not directly covered by our awareness. We were talking about that. Outer form is like, I don't know, my sense, tangible sense is not attached to the door over there or to this book. Like, I don't know, if a mosquito comes and tries to bite the book, I won't feel it. So because my awareness and consciousness is not directly attached to this book, we consider it part of the outer form. And the inner form will be any form that it's connected with my immediate direct awareness, like my nose. Okay, let's keep going. More chart flow. From these two, now we have outer form and inner form. The definition of outer form, as we say, is that which is not subsumed by the mind stream of a living being. That's the definition. Basically means what we say later in the footnotes, whatever my awareness is not directly attached to. Outer form may be divided into 5 different types: the door of sense of visible form, the door of sense of sound, of smell, of taste, and of tangibles. All right, so let's do the job. Book, the door of sense of visible form, sound, smell, taste, tangibles. Okay. It says, there is a definition of the door of sense of visible form because that object which is perceived by the consciousness of the eye is that definition. Okay, we add the definition here. Book. Then what else is coming? The door of sense of visible form may be divided into two parts, shapes and colors. You see how it's taking us shapes and colors. All right, what else? Here's the footnote that I told you. Very cool. Shapes may be divided into 8 different types: long and short, high and low, angular and rounded, and flat and no flat. All right, so we have them here. Shapes, long and short, high and low. Okay. Then you can guess what's gonna come. But before the divisions keep flowing, they give us some examples. Okay, an example of something angular can be the shape of a rectangle. An example of something round can be the shape of a circle or the outline of an egg. Example of flat will be the shape of an even surface. An example of something not flat will be the shape of an uneven surface. All right, now color may be divided into 2 types: primary colors and secondary colors. And remember, all this information, we were using it for the debates. So if someone was not here for the debates, maybe this is a little irrelevant, you may think, but all this is what we were discussing in the previous debates. Primary colors may be divided into 4. I like it why it says may be divided. Why? Remember, I don't know. I've been telling you that sometimes when I approach these subjects, I try to be very, I don't know if the word it can be anal or very picky, very like focusing in many little details. Maybe because maybe it implies to me that also it could not be. And the reason I say that is because in the previous debates, there is a part that says that there can be some primary colors and there could be some secondary colors that are not included in the category called the 4 primary colors. So it seems to me that there are more primary colors than the colors that belong to the category called 4 primary colors. Very interesting. And similar thing happens with the secondary colors. So, but here, examples of some primary colors are white, yellow, red, blue. Although apparently there can be more, which is still, I have this question, but then it goes, secondary colors may be divided into 8. It doesn't mean that they are only 8, but they may be divided into 8. Which ones are they? Cloud and smoke, dust, storm and fog, illumination and darkness, shadow and sunlight. There you go. And you see, if I wanna, if later, I don't know yet, but our deduction, inferential understanding, anumana will say is that probably the text is gonna start giving us divisions from the other ones too. Most likely, oops. You're not supposed to see that yet. Anyways, but if I want to address that, because I will have to make a new page for the map because it's getting crowded here. Otherwise, everything will be super, super little. Let's keep checking the text. Okay, now we're gonna talk a little about the permutations. This is something Adam has been taking us through for a little while. Remember this game, Mushi Musum? Either 4 permutations, Shi, number 4 in Tibetan, or Sum, number 3 in Tibetan. Mu in this case is like option or permutation. So it is 4 options or 3 options. And you see the 4 permutations. Look, Mu Shi. Mu, the options or permutation, and Shi, number 4. There are 4 permutations of color shapes. Things which are colors but not shapes, number 1. Things which are shapes but no colors, number 2. Things which are both colors and shapes, number 3. And things which are neither colors nor shapes. All right, so check it out. I hope this is very helpful. When I look at it, it helped me a lot. We have here our Mushimusum. Category number 1, things that are colors but no shapes. Number 2, only shapes, no colors. Number 3, both. Number 4, neither. So let's check. Give me an example according to what we just read on the run look section. What would you say an example of something that it's a color but it's not a shape? And I'm gonna try to look at the chat. Okay. Nobody has any idea? Give me, maybe Irina say something, but I don't know either Russian or Ukrainian. Red. Okay, yes. Color blue, red. Yes, we had a few examples, so correct. Red, white, yellow, blue. These 4 primary colors that were used in as an example, we can all agree they are colors but no shapes, because what's the shape of color red? I mean, we could say that it whatever shape the object that possesses the color is the shape of that particular piece of color red. All right. Now, can some of you give me example of something that is shape but is not color? Exactly. Round or flat or angular. So we have a crystal rectangle. Well, the rectangle shape itself is the thing that is the shape. And the crystal is not necessarily a shape. So like long and short, angular and rounded, the rectangle will be angular. So these are examples, yes. Now it gets complicated to me, because I was like, what can be something that is both a color and shape? And still, I'm not yet I don't fully understand this. But the classical example they give, let's go back to the text. Check it out. There are examples of permutation with something is color but not shape, the 4 primary colors. All right. There are examples of permutation with something is shape but not a color, the 4 of long and short, angular and round. Then check this out. It says, there are permutations where something is both color and shape for the 4 of cloud and smoke
Hey,
and
Juan,
dust and fog. Yes?
hey, Juan. I think I can see some of the translators actually asking to slow down just a bit.
Okay. Okay. So, okay. The text says an example of something that is both color and shape are these 4. I don't understand why, because remember, many times we say this thing. How can you explain to someone what is red? You will have to point an example of red to them. You will have to show them. So because I haven't been shown the color cloud and smoke, and I haven't been shown the color dust, storm, and fog, I'm very obscure about what that color looks like or what that shape looks like. I don't understand what do they mean when they say color cloud and smoke or color dust storm or shape dust storm, but apparently they are examples of something that is both. And maybe in some other context, this example of Mushimusum and this visual of the circles, you can apply it for other things. Wait, we could talk about things that are vehicles and cars, for example. Or no, Adam was saying this, things that are vehicles and have wheels. And we can find things that are, we could find things that are vehicles but have no wheels, things that have wheels but are no vehicles, things who have both, things who are neither. So this exercise can apply for other categories. And now this exercise is very interesting because, again, it's opening a door for us to start talking about Chi-Chedrak. Why? Because you're going to start realizing that these are mental pictures or categories that you can apply to objects. You can use them to label things. In this case, if we were talking about, again, vehicles and objects who have wheels, if you think about your label, this label called vehicle, how can you decide what objects are suitable to be labeled with the label vehicle? And it's almost like once you establish that in your mind, the process happens automatically. But then you can start to understand labels. And these labels are like archetypes, mental pictures. This subject can be very helpful to understand Chichedrak as well. Now, let's keep going with the text. And let's talk about the category number 4, which in this case is things that are neither colors and nor shapes. He says, there are examples of things that are not shapes nor colors. And the examples they give is earth, water, fire, and wheat, but as in the elements. And you may remember many times Geshe Michael, Geshe has shared with us that there has been a lot of misunderstanding from modern cultures on explaining what ancient cultures meant by the 4 elements, earth, water, fire, wind, for example. And that is not that the ancient cultures will believe that there is like a little piece of dust in every atom, or there is like a little fire, or like like a little fire or a drop of water in every single thing. But it's like each one of these elements, it's representing a universal force. Like, for example, earth may be representing gravity or cohesion, how solid something is, how hard their atoms attract to each other and make it like compact, how strongly. And the water talks about fluidity. Fire talks about heat, like the temperature an object holds. Wind, I think, talks about movement, how quickly the parts or the atoms or the energies inside the object move, as far as I understand. So it's like it's talking about principles or forces that all matter possess. Um, so I hope this exercise helps, and you can do this exercise as well for other things. This exercise actually can help a lot to identify things. It's like a mental tool. For example, if you have you can start identifying, I don't know, if we talk about we talked about good restaurants and places we should go to, and try to find a good restaurant that we, because I don't know, you could say, oh, this is a good restaurant, but we should not go. It doesn't qualify to the we should go to. Why? Because it's close. So you don't put it there. You don't put it in the middle. Places we should go to, places that are open, places that are close, places that are affordable. Let's say, I'm just saying for an example. Sometimes I think, anyways. And then let's say, for example, you can use this exercise to find good choices for a restaurant that you should go, or other things in life, right? Okay. Now I'm gonna pause a little bit because we're gonna keep going with this exam, with the text of the Ranlook at verse number 97. We changed subjects slightly, but I want to review this. But I think this is a good place to stop and check if anybody has any questions or want to say anything or want to introduce themselves. Who feels the brave person who's gonna tell us about what do they do, what do they want to do, and things like that. Where do you live, or where do you want to live? What do you like doing? What's the name of your pets? And things like that. Okay, and if you're not gonna do it today, think about it so you do it sometime soon. I think it's really great. It helps us to get to know each other, to build some community. Otherwise, some people, I just see their names in a screen, but I never seen them. And I don't know anything about them. Huang, do you want to introduce yourself? Yay.
As one say, sooner better we have to do, right? So I better to start now.
Thank you.
Actually, I met one before in Vietnam when Geshe Michael was here. He came to visit Vietnam last July. Um, I don't know if he remember me, but yeah. Um, I was there with my family. I'm Vietnamese. I just introduced a fun fact when a fun fact about me. I just have to do the same thing with the ACI how to say volunteer.
Uh-huh.
So I do it again now.
Thank you.
I'm Vietnamese living in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. But my husband is South African living in Vietnam also. Recently, he moved to Shanghai, working in Shanghai. I have a daughter named Chloe. You guys, if you guys join Mixed Not recently, maybe heard Geshe Michael talk about someone named Chloe when he talked to Chloe Ma, but it's my daughter. um, yeah, and we have a pet. We have two birds and one dog. So yeah, big family. Um, for this one, as I understand that we try to the whole universe is divided in the thing in all the how to say that one is explained to us. This can put the whole universe in such kind of thing in each group, right? It makes us understand the T and the rock, so we can understand how the mind recognize the thing when the eye perceives something and send the data to the mind, so the mind can understand that and they can label what thing that the eye have perceived, the eye have seen. Um, so I just think about if we see a fire, we don't need the heat to see to understand it's a fire. So what data that the slider heating, fire heating, something like that. How what data should the eye send to the mind to understand that is the fire, because we don't need to put our hand into the fire to get hot, to perceive the heat, to know that that's a fire. So what do I think?
You were asking about the difference about recognizing something because previous experience versus having to test that it matches the definition.
So the fire should be in shape or color, or both shape and color, or on neither shape or color. Like it interrupt, like the car is for the car we can see that the mind can send all the parts of the car to the mind. Then the mind can understand that okay, it's a car. Yeah. So for the heat, for the fire heat that you guys can have at home to make you warm in the winter, we don't have here in Vietnam. Yeah, but yeah, in Western you guys can have it. So I'm thinking, how can you guys understand? Because we don't need the heat to understand that it's a fire. We don't need to put our hand in to feel the hot to understand that it's the fire. So what signal that the eye see that and send to the mind to understand that it's the fire?
I think so, but I think it's also there are some important distinctions we have to do, because one thing is to talk about fire and another thing is to talk about the element of fire in the context of the four elements. And maybe now that I hear you, maybe we should in the presentation I should add fire element, earth element, wind element, because there's this distinction. When we talked about fire element, which is the case we were using here, it means this universal force, this energy. It doesn't really, it's not talking about fire as, now it's difficult to talk about it. The traditional definition of fire is hot and burning. So that which that which fits that definition, in a way, anything that performs that function could be considered fire. That's interesting to me that some schools of thought define things by the function they perform. So if it's hot and burning, it has to be fire, right? But then fire as the manifestation of plasma, I think now using a little bit more like modern science, you hear about these things like the different states of matter. It's like solid, liquid, and gas. But then they say there's like a fourth one called plasma. And some people say there is like a fifth one and things like that, but it will get complicated. Supposedly, as far as I understand, fire, as like the fire we see in a candle, belongs to the fourth state of matter called plasma. And that's the thing, like when we see, let's put it this way, this like the flame on a candle, we can recognize it as to being fire. I think it because we have seen something similar before, and we have successfully been able to point at it and establish it as fire. We recognize it, we give it some attributes, some color. Oh, maybe this is interesting because I'm guessing that may have to do with secondary colors. Remember how how I was complaining that I have never seen color dust storm, and I have never seen the color fog. I have never seen the color. What are the other? I think one of them is actually smoke color, which happens to be a shape as well. Now I'm thinking maybe a flame, and that kind of translucent reddish light could be what they are talking about when they talk about these secondary colors called, let me see, cloud and smoke, for example. So anyways, we see this object and we recognize it. It's like sometimes we say we do it through a process of elimination. We cancel everything that is not, that doesn't match the archetype that we previously have established as fire, because we saw something similar and somebody taught us that that thing is to be called fire. So in this sense, we recognize it because we identify elements pretty much with the sense of our eyes. We identify elements, but as well, we can identify elements with our sense of tangible, because it's hot and burning. An example will be like, if we are a little bit far from an electric candle and we get confused, look, there is fire over there. But then your friend tells you, oh, no, it's not fire. Looks like fire, but it's not fire. Why not? Because it's not performing the function of hot and burning. Okay. So this is not real fire. No. Why not? Because it doesn't burn you. Okay. It looks like fire. Yes, but it's not, because it doesn't perform the function that something has to perform in order to be established as fire. Does that make sense? Is it helpful? So Juan, it's yeah, I remember Chloe was your daughter in Vietnam. She came to sing with the band, the music band, and she was playing with Kitty while we were in classes. Hey, hello, Chloe. Good to see you again.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. I'll send your regards.
To Kiri, yeah.
Yes.
We may call him sometimes, and we can have the chat with Kiri sometimes. Thank you.
Thank you. And what else? Do you feel you finished your presentation or want to add anything else?
I think it's enough for now. So anyone want to, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Juan. Yeah, very appreciated. Now we know about Juan. So like that, if anybody else wants to present themselves, I think it's helpful for the group dynamics. And if not today, just keep thinking about it and maybe do it sometime next time. I would like to check with Adam if you, Adam, would like to present or share about something. Should I keep going with the rand look section?
Yeah, man, you're more than welcome to keep going. I told Juan I kind of had an eventful week and had a few things that I'm purifying. So last night I think I actually started to get a little sick too and didn't sleep too well at all. So I'm not doing the best this morning. So I'd really yeah, I'd appreciate it, one, if you could take a little bit more time. That'd be great.
Okay. We can keep going then with the rand look section. And then after we get to this part that we're almost there, I wanted to see the difference that we're gonna review a few of the previous debates. So you may be able to feel a difference now that we have much more context. So let me go back and share the screen. Okay. Okay, so you can see this footnote is what we were talking about. Earth, water, and fire, earth, water, fire, and wind. Here is referring to the four as the four elements. And it's the distinction I was mentioning. It's not the same to say water or to say water element. I'm actually gonna have to share the screen, but this way. So I can change. I guess here. Okay. So here probably, oops. It will be more appropriate if I write earth element, water element, and like that. Just so we are very clear, we're talking about the energy behind the element, not the actual ranking, the actual object that can possess the label earth. Okay. Let's keep going. Sense door or sense door of form, category of form, and something we can point as to being form are all synonymous. Okay, now just to make sure we are getting this clear, I would like to ask you what other single word is just one word, two words really, there are two options, will also be synonymous with sense, door of form, category of form, something we can point as to being form. Give me, oops, why? Sorry. Sorry. Now that, okay. Two words. Now the challenge is that I need to look at the chat and I don't know why sometimes it doesn't let me. Excellent. Yes. Form and matter. Exactly. Let me share this again. That makes me very happy because to me, it's a proof that this thing is being clear. It's getting clear. So yeah, exactly. These two words, I will add, for example, I could add here as well as form. Let's say if I added this, it's going to be correct. I don't know why I took it green, but okay, fine. It's because. So sense door of form, category of form, something we can point as to being form are all synonymous, including as well form and matter. Form and matter are also synonymous with sense door of form, category of form. That's very good. Because why? Because this is how the run look section starts. And now we may be more able to identify what is form, even if we have never seen anybody pointing at form. Check it. There do exist classical examples of something we can point as to being form. For the two, colors and shapes are just such examples. So now it's slightly more clear. If you don't know what form is, but somebody tells you that colors and shapes are examples of form, okay, it will give you a better idea. Now, what I find interesting here as well is that you can point that something exists by pointing an example of that thing, of something that is characteristic of that thing. Because if we go again to Chichedrak, we could say that colors and shapes are characteristic of form. Why? Because colors and shapes are form, but because they possess the quality of form, they have formness. You see how Geshe does this with quotes? You can find formness inside colors and shapes. All colors and shapes have formness. And this may be also interesting to identify that when we're talking about the idea or the archetype form or formness itself, it doesn't has color and it doesn't has a shape. It's like an idea, like a quality. Although we can find form and formness in every color and in every shape, form itself as this idea and archetype does not has a particular color, does not has a particular shape. So again, you see how all these topics are leading us and making us approach to Chichedrak. But you see, colors and shapes are characteristics of form. They are objects that manifest the quality of form. Consider the two of colors and shapes. There is a reason why we refer them as something we can point to as being form. They are called so because they can be pointed to as being objects of the power of the eye. All right, so now it gets more interesting because, again, let's go back to this idea of when we talked about form, are we going to be talking in the context of the 5 heaps or the 12 and 18 ayatanas and datus? Why? Because why I say this is because look what the definition they are using. They say colors and shapes can be pointed to as being objects of the power of the eye. Now, the tricky part here is like objects that are suitable to be pointed as being objects of the power of the eye can pretty much fit both of the context. Because if we are talking about the 5 heaps, the 5 heaps considers form anything that could be perceived by any of the 5 senses, including the power of the eye. But if we are talking about the context of the 12 ayatanas or 18 datus, form is exclusively that which can be perceived by the power of the eye. So interesting to me, using this example, objects perceived by the power of the eye will fit both of the context. So probably the author chose it purposely to avoid any possible mistake, maybe, or do it very purposely to make us realize like it's the safe zone. You know what I'm saying? It's either trying to confuse us or trying to protect themselves using this example as the safe zone. Or maybe we need to keep reading to find out why he may have chosen that, or she, I don't know. Oh, we know who the author is. Okay. There is a definition of the door of sense of sound because that object which is heard by consciousness of the ear is that definition. Okay, now here we are about to move from the visible form. Here we are. I want to show you this. Okay. We are about to move from the door sense of visible form to the door sense of sound. For that, I'm going to have to make a new flow chart for you next time, because I don't know, I just thought it's going to be super crowded here. But keep in mind the division or format matter we are taking. Most likely, without knowing, and this is something that Geshe say that it's like big part of being a Tibetan translator, is he calls it anticipatory translation. He say that you get familiar with the topic so well that you can almost guess what the next topic is going to be. So my guess is that it's going to start to address all the different doors of sense. And once it's done, it's going to start with inner form. That's just my guess. Sorry, I'm checking. Oh, yeah, okay, the chat. Please slow down. Yes, and I can tell how this topic, the way I approach it, I try to become very mechanical and repeat many words like that, and that may be extra difficult for the translator, so I apologize. I just think for these particular topics, that could be helpful sometimes. I mean, not the speed, but the repetition of certain elements to describe something. Okay. We are about to move to the next category. So check. We were talking about visible form mostly. Now we're going to move into sound. There is a definition of the door of sense of sound, and it is the object which is heard by the consciousness of the ear. So can somebody give me another synonym for the door of sense of sound? Another synonym, one word synonym for the door of sense of sound. And that's the thing. Sometimes I cannot look at the chat. Oh, yeah, good. Sound. Yes, exactly. Sound is a synonym of the door of sense of sound. Sound is a synonym of that object which is heard by the consciousness of the ear. Excellent. Let me just keep going. Let's just start this and we're almost done. But let's at least for good luck read the maybe first one or two. Okay. Now, just for those of you who are interested in the West Chinese, aka Tibetan language, this is the way to write sound. Sound is, and it's pronounced like dra, like a almost like a D-R-A, dra, but in Tibetan is like this middle sound between a T and a D, and that's supposed to be pronounced like tra. It's not a T, it's not a D, but like an in between. Okay. Sound can be divided into two types. Drala, chena, ni, yode. Ni means two. Sounds produced by elements which are part of a person, and sounds produced by elements which are not part of a person. An example of sound produced by elements which are part of a person is the sound of a person clapping their hands. Yeah, the sound of a person clapping their hands. Interesting, right? And then you can see also how there is this connection with inner form and outer form in the sense of what kind of things. Basically, I will argue almost like sound which is made by inner form and sound that it's made by outer form. But that brings a problem, because let's say if we divide here door of sense of sound, sounds that are made by the parts of a person, sounds that are made by parts that are not parts of a person, I will wonder, wouldn't that belong to inner form? Oh no, it won't, because the sound itself, either if it's produced by the parts of the person or is produced by parts that are not parts of the person, things that are not part of the person, sound itself is an object that is not directly covered by our awareness. Because if you, I don't know, if you warm, I don't know if you can say that in English. If you if you if you heat, sorry, if you try to apply heat to sound, you will not be burned, because your direct awareness is not attached to sound. Okay, great. So even if the sound was produced with the parts of the person, or it was produced by things that are not part of the person, the sound itself, it will belong to outer form. Great. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. I think it's a good time. It's a good place to stop, but we're gonna keep going with this and review some other debates. And I wanna hear from you if you have any questions or interest, ideas, proposal, things you would like to address for other sessions or this one. But yeah, I keep opening this invitation. If at some point you want to, as we did, like introduce yourself, but also introduce like a topic you find interesting or something you read, something you want to share with the group, feel free. You can, how to say, save your spot in the sessions so you can participate as well. You can share something with all of us. Questions, personal life, or Pramana topics. So feel free. This you can also be presenting times to time. I'm just reading the chat. I don't understand that Janet says that when you perform music, you read ahead, you anticipate. That will be inner sound for me. Well, the thing is, like, sound is not the one divided by inner and outer. It's divided by the source that produces it. Inner and outer, the categories of inner and outer are belong to the bigger category called form, in the sense of how strongly our awareness is attached to that object. Basically, if it's part of you, if it's part of your body, it basically is inner form. But if it's not part of your body, it's outer form. And remember, this is what school are we talking about? We're talking about school number 2, because some other schools may give a different explanation of what is inner and outer form. or about form. But then when we come into sound, what it says is like sound can be divided into sound produced by your body and sounds that are not produced by your body. So your voice, but also your steps, clapping, and other things will be considered sounds produced by your body. But they don't necessarily give sound this division of outer and inner. And now it's just like a joke. What it will be like inner sounds versus outer sounds. But anyways, we'll keep exploring this run look section. And then after we explore the run look section, we go back to the debates. I think it's going to be much understandable and we will have much more context. This text that I'm using here, it's in the chat groups. If you're part of the Telegram groups, you can access this and read it calmly at your own pace, make your own notes. Just make your own copy so the main document doesn't modify. But play with your own copy if you want, make your own notes. And then, as I say, if at some point you want to share your own notes, the exploration you did for a certain debate or during the run look, we can definitely do that as well. Yeah, like it can look like Jesus or a dog. The cloud can look like Jesus or a cloud. I think so. Yeah, it can look like things like that. I'm really curious to see if I could see an example of color smoke or color dust storm. I'm gonna try to figure it out if there is like a place where we can see that, and if I find it, I'll share it with you. Because especially for colors and shapes, we need to look at them, we need to experience them with our senses before we can establish them as to be that particular color or shape. We mentioned that for color red, right? You will never know what color red looks like until you see a color and you label it as to be red. And then from there, you just agree that every time you see that particular color, you're gonna agree that it's red. Okay, so my homework is gonna be, one of them is gonna be try to find these mystic colors that I have no idea how they look like. And if I find them, I share them. But if you find them, please share them too. All right. Thank you so much. And yeah, just think if next time you want to present anything and or yourselves, start cooking it in your mind. Thank you so much. You know, the chat is open for questions, commentaries there. You can also help us to create content. That Adam doesn't like the word content. Okay, and Adam, we hope you get better and see you next week.
Thanks, Juan.
Yeah, thank you very much, translators. Sorry for the speed and the complications of the topic. And thank you so much for all the participants as well, for your interest, your participation. See you, everyone. Thank you. Nguyen, Kadrin, Juan, thank you for presenting. Andreas, Vladislava, Lyubov, good to see you. Christian as well, best regards to Romania. And I'm guessing Tatiana.